For the second game in a row, Colin Kaepernick chose not to stand during the national anthem. The Niners quarterback criticized by fans and on social media, saying he's dishonoring the flag and the military. But new this hour, a group of veterans is now getting behind Kaepernick. They're writing an open letter in favor of his right to, quote, silent protest. That letter published online just within the last half hour on medium.com. Joining me now, one of the authors of that letter, we've got U.S. Army veteran Richard Allen Smith. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's jump into this. Why write this letter in the first place? What prompted you to do this?
Well, I saw a lot of folks claiming that Colin Kaepernick was disrespecting troops or somehow disrespecting veterans with the protests that he's making. A lot of those people not having served themselves. And I think me and my colleagues who signed this letter really wanted to make sure that there was a voice out there saying, look, those people don't speak for us. There are many veterans that support both Colin Kaepernick's right to protest and also agree with him that Black Lives Matter and there's something that needs to be done in America about institutional racism.
So some critics, though, argue that there is a way to protest, there is a way to send that message without being, in their view, disrespectful. Do you agree?
I agree that there are other ways to protest, and I would hope lots of people would find other ways to protest. And if people feel that this way to protest is the best for them, they should do that too, just as Colin Kaepernick did. He has that right. They have that right. We all have our own right to choose to protest according to the First Amendment. I don't think it was disrespectful at all. In fact, I think it was one of the most respectful things a person can do for military service. We fought for everyone's right to protest. We also fought for, when you join the military, you pledge an oath to a constitution that says that, it proclaims an intent in the preamble that we will support domestic tranquility and provide, all sorts of things like that, all sorts of liberties to everyone in America, and those liberties certainly aren't being provided to everyone right now.
So in this letter, there's the comparison drawn between Colin Kaepernick and Jackie Robinson. Talk a little bit here about why you think that is a valid or fair comparison.
Well, Jackie Robinson wrote in his autobiography that he could no longer say the Pledge of Allegiance or stand or salute during the national anthem. Jackie Robinson, prior to being a Major League Baseball player for the Brooklyn Dodgers, was also an Army captain. He was a veteran, and he agreed with Colin Kaepernick in his time that he couldn't support standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we honor and revere Jackie Robinson and folks like him and Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis and these folks for doing the exact same thing that Colin Kaepernick is doing now.
But the tone of the protest, I think, is raising some questions, right? During training camp, you remember Kaepernick wore those socks with caricatures of police officers. Is that the way to go about this?
If Colin Kaepernick thinks that's the way to go about it, I think he should do that. We wouldn't all choose to protest in the identical manner, but everyone has their right to choose that. And I think it's a little disingenuous to talk about Colin Kaepernick's disrespect. Let's talk about the disrespect afforded to African Americans in America. According to the Washington Post, African Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be shot and killed by police than white people. That's disrespect. I find it, missing the forest for the trees a little bit to talk about a pair of socks when we have African Americans in America dying in the streets.
You saw the game last night. He was booed by fans, some of them. How do you think fans should respond to this protest by Kaepernick? What would you like to see?
I would like to see a lot of support for Colin Kaepernick, both for his stand and for the movement for Black Lives. But just as Colin Kaepernick has his right to protest, fans have their right to respond however they see fit. But, I disagree with those folks that boo them, and I wholeheartedly endorse Colin Kaepernick in his stand and the message behind it. And I would like to say that I speak here today for myself. What's in the letter, the text of the letter that you can see at veteransforkaepernick.us, all the folks signing that letter, that's what they signed on to. I'm speaking for myself here today, but I definitely support Colin Kaepernick.
Richard Allen Smith, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
He's been highly critical of